Elena G. from Miss Berkeley's fourth grade class, students at Vieja Valley Elementary, would like to know, how did you all meet and do you enjoy working together?
We all met on this film, actually. I mean, Justin was the only person who was working on Into the Spider-Verse. Joaquin he's being humble. He's done so many animated TV shows like Voltron, Legend of Korra, Avatar: Last Airbender. This guy has done so much. He's like the master of action movies and cartoons. And I had just finished up another animated film, a Pixar movie called Soul. So Phil Lord and Chris Miller basically pulled this team together, and we met each other when we started on this film, and we became friends really quickly. I mean, I think that's part of the reason why this whole thing worked. I think if we didn't get along with each other, we wouldn't have been able to make this film. Because when you make a film like this, you spend a disgusting amount of time with each other, locked in rooms for really, really long days. I know everything about how both these guys smell, and they know how I smell because we spend a lot of time together. So yeah, we get along great.
Great. Joshua, a fifth grader from Mrs. Torres' class at Fillmore Elementary, wants to know, how did you come up with the design of the characters?
Oh, that's a very cool question. We have really, really talented artists who work with us. So what we do is we kind of like go to them and we say, all right, we kind of see this guy, he's kind of good looking. He's like a really good looking Spider-Man, right? And he's big and muscular, and his name's Miguel O'Hara. And we want him to be like really cool looking so that Miles is like intimidated by him. And then the artists take that information and they just start doing lots of designs. They probably do hundreds of versions of Miguel where they show it to us. We'll make little drawings ourselves, we'll make notes, we'll give feedback, and then eventually we all get to a point where consensus-wise, we all kind of agree, in other words, that this is the best one, and then we build it in the computer. But it all gets started by hand, and if either of you like to draw, it really just starts with somebody drawing something like that many, many times.
Daisy in Mrs. Castaneda's sixth grade class at Fillmore Elementary wants to know, how did you choose the art style for each world?
Ooh, that's a really good question. So each world has its own, unique style, and some of that is based on comic books that we look to and were influenced by. Miguel O'Hara's world, for instance, was based on like the art that you would see in the making of books for films. So we really leaned into an artist named Sid Mead, who was responsible for a lot of amazing designs from films that we grew up with. And then, we also brought in comic book artists that worked on the original Spider-Man 2099 comic and had them do passes over the characters and do their own ink washes. So each world had its own story, and we tried to complement the story and the tone of those worlds with artists that fit.
Solomon, a fifth grader from Mrs. Torres' class at Fillmore Elementary, wants to know, how did you animate Spider-Punk?
Spider-Punk was probably the most complicated character in this entire movie. We couldn't figure it out for quite a long time, because one of the great challenges of Spider-Punk was we wanted him to look like a punk rock poster come to life. So part of the reason why he looks so odd is that different parts of his body are animated at different speeds, so that even when he's standing still, he's basically in motion. We work with really brilliant people at this place called Sony Pictures ImageWorks, and they're basically professional problem solvers. Their jobs are to hear some of the things we want to try to do in the film and figure out how to do it. And I think Spider-Punk was probably the greatest challenge in the entire film, but at least we think they nailed it, because Spider-Punk has turned into one of our favorite characters.
Becca from Miss Vega's fifth grade class at Vieja Valley Elementary would like to know, the colors from the movie are so bright. Was that on purpose?
Yes. So I love color. I love colorful shoes. I love color. And I wanted to make sure, like when we started making the movie, I was telling these guys, we can't forget any of the colors. We have to use all of them. But the challenge is making sure that you use them in the right places so that the story actually doesn't get overwhelmed by all the color. But So there's really fun things that we do where, like, at times it gets super, super bright, but then we make sure then it comes down when we want it to be quiet, when the characters are just talking. But then when Miles is like going back home and he's like running through the building and being chased by Miguel and he gets into the machine and all the lasers are going around him and there's this big spider, we want moments like that to have the most color. So it's a lot of fun, and we choose it just by choosing colors we like. It's really that simple.
Sorry. 4 is from Miss Vega's 5th grade class at Vieja Valley Elementary. Wants to know, were there other movies that inspired parts of your movie?
Oh, I mean, I think we're a large product of the inspirations from the films that we grew up watching and that we watch now. So yeah, we always point to this film because it ends on such a cliffhanger. There was a Star Wars film that was made long before all of you were born called The Empire Strikes Back. And that one ended on a big, huge cliffhanger, and it had a huge impact on us. So I'd say that was, this was our Empire Strikes Back.
Amazing. Thomas from Mr. Gillen's 6th grade class at Franklin Elementary wants to know, how did you come up with the Miles is the Prowler ending?
Oh, you mean Earth 42 Miles? Well, you talk about it. That actually goes back to an earlier question. And a movie that was really influential to me was It's a Wonderful Life. It's a really old Christmas movie where a character kind of explores what the world would be like if he hadn't been born. And we wanted to talk about this idea if there was a Miles in another dimension that didn't get to be Spider-Man, what would he have turned into? And it was like a really exciting idea for us to explore this idea of like nature versus nurture. We knew that Miles's Uncle Aaron was a huge, huge impact on him in the first film, so we wanted to see how would it be if Miles didn't have powers, his father was gone, and he was with his Uncle Aaron. What kind of person would he be? And we wanted to really have our Miles, the Miles we know, who is Spider-Man, have to confront that reality.
Thank you. Zoe B. from Miss Berkeley's 4th grade students at Vieja Valley Elementary want to know, is there a message that you want people to learn from the Spider-Man movies?
Yeah, I think Miles said it best. It's do your own thing. It's tell your own story. There's a lot of people that tell Miles what he should be doing, right? There's a lot of people who are like, you can't do this, you can't do that. This is how you have to be Spider-Man. This is what Spider-Man's supposed to do. And I think through Miles' journey, he just refuses to accept that because he comes from a loving family who always taught him, whatever you need, we will support you. Just follow your own path and write your own story. And Miles uses that to carry him through this whole journey, even when he's facing incredible odds, even when everybody turns their back on him. He is still willing to stand up for what he knows is right and what he knows he believes is the right path for him. And so then he chooses to do his own thing. And I hope that you will do that in your lives, because you have to believe in what you're doing. Life is long, and you have to believe the whole time. So I think Miles' journey really is about that.
Thank you. Maura from Ms. Vega's 5th grade class at Vieja Valley Elementary wants to know, are there any connections between the movie and your own life?
Oh boy, that's a big one. I think, one of the interesting things is that this film is told from Miles's perspective, but there's also a huge portion of it that's told from Miles's parents' perspective. And we're all parents, and we all have children of varying ages. And I think we've all experienced a version of what was on screen where Miles was having a bit of a confrontation with his parents or coming to a bit of an impasse. And so I think we really relied on that. So I think we all pulled from the fact that we're parents. And we've all been teenagers with parents as well. So we've been on both sides of that coin.
Excellent. Charlotte C. from Miss Berkeley's 4th grade class at Vieja Valley Elementary School would like to know from each of you, how young were you when you decided to start making movies? And what was the first movie you ever directed?
Wow, the first movie I ever directed was with me and my friends in high school. We actually did it on a VHS recorder, because at the time we all did Taekwondo. So we made a karate movie. We made a homemade karate film when I was about 15 or 16 years old.
And is that when you decided to start making movies?
No, I didn't know that I was going to do what I'm doing now until much, much later, until after I had kids. This is actually a second career. I was a newspaper and magazine journalist for 20 years before I made my first film.
Excellent. Justin?
So the first film, I was also in high school, just like Kemp. The first film I made was, I refused to like write a history report, and I begged my teacher if I could film it. And I made a film about the Revolutionary War with my friends in our backyards. So I turned that in as my history report instead of turning in an actual written report. And from there, I was kind of hooked. The first professional gig that I got to direct was actually on the Powerpuff animated series. I got to direct a couple episodes of Powerpuff Girls. And then the first movie was this one.
And yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
so I mean, I had a similar story. It was a book report, and I decided to make the book report like an emergency alert, because the book was about aliens that were invading the Earth. So I made this as the emergency alert that the aliens were invading, and then it was good, yeah. And then the first professional gig that I did was a show called Justice League. So it was like superheroes.
Thank you. Cannon from Mr. Gilling's 6th grade class at Franklin Elementary wants to know from each of you, who or what inspired you to make movies?
Again, for me, it was a combination of all the animation, all the comics, all the films that I had access to growing up. I was an only child, so I spent a lot of time by myself, and I spent all my summers in Portugal, and I wouldn't quite get on the Portuguese time difference, so I would stay up all night while my family was asleep, and I would watch movies all night long. And that really inspired me.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I grew up in the 1980s, when nowadays people talk about that as the time that young people just stay glued to their televisions, and guilty as charged. So I just grew up in a wonderful time watching movies like Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Gremlins, Back to the Future, The Goonies. These were all like pivotal films in my childhood, and excited me about the idea of storytelling. And I knew that whatever I did in my life, I wanted to try to tell stories too.
I am very similar. I grew up, parents would like just give us a few quarters, because that's all it took back then, and they would drop us off at the theater, and we would hang out at the movie theater all day, and I would see every movie I could. But the movie that actually really made, like, I loved Star Wars, I loved Ghostbusters, I love all of these movies that were going on that these guys are talking about. But the movie that really made me want to make a movie for the first time was when I saw 2001. And it blew my mind, because I had seen so many movies, and then I saw 2001, and it kind of like made me perceive reality differently. And so I kind of wanted to make movies where people perceived reality differently, and here I got to do it 6 times in 6 different dimensions.
Logan from Miss Vega's 5th grade class at Vieja Valley Elementary wants to know, what advice would you give to someone who wants to be a film director?
You know, film directing, animation, but all film directing it's a big collaborative effort. But you have a story to tell that's inside of you. So it's a combination of being able to collaborate and work with other people, but also staying true to your vision as a storyteller. So whatever you have inside of you, hold on to that. It makes you unique. It makes you a unique storyteller. But also really embrace the idea that it takes a huge group of people to make these films.
Excellent. And Francisco from Mr. Gilling's 6th grade class at Franklin Elementary, when is the next Spider-Man movie coming out?
We cannot tell you. I'm so sorry. But what I can tell you is it's going to be beyond any of your expectations.
Oh. And the last question. Leo, a sixth grader from Mrs. Wells' class at Fillmore Elementary. Is he here? He wants to know if he can be the next Spider-Man.
Anyone can wear the mask. Any of you can be Spider-Man. Be a hero in your own life. Be Spider-Man.
And get your SAG card.
Well,
Get your SAG card.
let's give a warm welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for being here, guys. And get home safe.
Can I take a selfie?
Yeah.
Can I take a selfie with all of you?
Are there house lights so we can turn on? Are there like house lights so we can see people?
Hayden, can we put the house lights on?
You got the long arm.
Yeah, we're gonna get in on this, all of us.
Can I get lights? Oh, you might have to. I think it's flipped.
Oh, you might. Did you flip it around?
Yeah, no, I can see.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Okay.
Wave, everybody.
Everybody.